Can you wait 30 seconds? I got to go take my medication. I forgot to take it. I just got a reminder.
Uh, you you better take your medication, Kevin.
I'll be right back.
Welcome everybody to the Ask Me Anything session of the Tucson Macintosh User Group meeting for June of 2024. Our main answerer for Ask Me Anything has stepped away from the microphone for a moment, so everybody should get their questions ready, and we'll see how what we can do to help you out. Who's Diggory Garrett? That's interesting.
I think that's a parrot.
Who do you think it is, Roger?
It's a parrot.
Hello, Jerry.
And hello, Alan. I was wondering if you got the message, so apparently you did.
Okay, I'm back. Did I miss anything?
No,
We were
we just
talking about you,
all.
but nothing we want to admit to.
Okay.
So I have a question. I'm continuing to get um on Safari messages that it says it cannot find the server, and I go to developer mode up in my menu bar and select Firefox, and the website opens up. Today it did it on Zoom. I had just updated Zoom. I wanted to see what the new changes were. I clicked on the changes and I got the Safari message that it couldn't go to the website. So this is going on, for a long time.
I had the same experience after updating to Zoom and looking at that. And I went to the title bar and hit the refresh button, and it came right up. Why it happens that way, I don't know. But hit the refresh button, and maybe you'll have a better experience.
Also, Roger, what do you use as your DNS server?
I use Quad 9.
Um, okay, yeah, I use Quad 9 when I have problems with websites, so it shouldn't be that. If it happens a lot, you may want to try Google or OpenDNS and see how they perform.
Okay. It happens on major websites that shouldn't have any problem.
It might be just a timing issue where it's sending the request out. And if Quad 9 is super, super busy, it may not be doing the routing.
Well, that could be. Well, I'll try the refresh that Lee recommended.
Yeah, Command R also works for refreshing Safari.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Hi, Jerry.
Hello. As a lot of you are aware, I had a life change and I'm trying to recover from it. I now have two iPhones that I have to custode and actually three iPads, and I have to figure out what to do with this plethora of riches, especially given that I have my main iPhone is an old iPhone 13 or getting older iPhone 13. So Diana had an iPhone 15, just plain 15, and I have a 13 Pro Max. And I had been planning on getting rid of the 13 uh, with either iPhone 17 or 18, probably with the 17, but who knows what the tariffing is going to be like, and not, do I want to stand for the enriching, what's his name's core um, pocketbook. And give me some help, if you will. If you were faced with having a 128K iPhone 15 or with a 256 or sorry, a gig uh, uh, um, iPhone 15 or a 256 gig iPhone 13, and you had the means to go financially either way, what makes the most sense?
You have the phones sitting there where they're not being used.
I keep having to charge Diana's iPhone 15. It seems to want to sit there, and the battery goes down pretty fast. I even turned off email and a whole bunch of other things, but it doesn't seem to want to hold a charge like my iPhone 13.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask. I love new technology,
So do I, but
and this is the big disclaimer on iPhones. I have not purchased an iPhone myself since the iPhone 4S.
okay.
I have relied on people giving me older phones when they upgrade.
Uh-huh.
Um, the last phone that I have a 15 because I had a client that wanted to buy a 15 and asked me if I'm able to support it. I said, yeah, it should be very similar to my iPhone 12. And she goes, oh, you need a 15 too. So she bought me one as well.
Oh, wow.
Um, with
Nice
that
trial.
said, with that said, I would stay with your 13.
Okay.
And the only reason I say stay with the 13, the 15 does seem to have a battery issue. If
Have
you're
you heard?
charging it that much, well, you have to understand the batteries in the pros are going to be better than the batteries in the 15 in
Right,
the non-pros.
right.
And a pro is normally equal to, if not better, than the next model's baseline.
Okay.
So your 13 is at least equal to a 14, and it might be maybe 5% or 10% slower than a 15 non-pro.
Right.
And if it does everything that you need it to do, why waste the money?
Well, I hear you. Yeah. Okay. This is good advice. Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else have any thoughts one way or the other?
I'm buying a 16E tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Tomorrow is the last day for extra trade-in value.
Uh-huh.
What do you have now, Susan?
I have a 14 Pro.
You're not going to gain much on the 16E. You understand that?
True, true,
Other than it being smaller.
right. But my thought is the same as Jerry's, that future devices are going to be a lot more money. And I am trading everything in tomorrow. And I don't expect to upgrade again for quite a long time.
No.
Hey, Jerry?
Susan just mentioned the trade-in thing. I just got an email a couple of days ago, said they had a special deal for trade-ins until the 18th. I don't know if you've checked that, Jerry.
Yeah,
I
that's
checked it for my
tomorrow.
15 and they didn't want to give me much money for it, so I'm going to keep it.
right. Yeah. Yeah. The money is very, this is a weird situation I'm in. The money is not, it's already there. In other words, when I buy the previous one, I start saving for the replacement. So the money's there's a pot of money that's already available for doing this deal if it makes good technical and operational sense. And that's really where if anybody can make uh, comments toward, technically enough, operational, having access to a technology on the 17, for example, that I would not have on either the 15 or the 13 Pro Max.
Well,
That's interesting to me.
well, one of the things that you're going to gain if you get a 16 Pro or a 17 Pro, a regular or Max, is going to be Apple Intelligence. Um, and to be honest with you, I have used Apple Intelligence um, on my devices and I turn it off. It's more of a hindrance because
Right.
I know what's important to me.
Yeah.
And
I,
right now, the only um,
Amen.
AI model that they're really supporting is ChatGPT. I use Perplexity.
uh-huh.
So Perplexity is not part of Apple's architecture yet.
Yeah.
So every time you ask Siri something, it wants to use ChatGPT. I don't have an account, a premium account with ChatGPT. I don't want to give them the $20 a month.
All right.
Does that mean you can't use Perplexity on an iPhone?
You could use the Perplexity app, and I
Oh,
set up a shortcut that I just hold a button or I ask Siri to ask a question to Perplexity, and that works.
okay.
But if you just say, "Hey, S lady, what is this?" Um, if you don't have a ChatGPT subscription, it says you need to set up ChatGPT to get this answer. Or you just turn off Apple Intelligence altogether, which is what I did, and most people that I know did.
Yeah. And then do a Google search.
Right.
Yeah. So it's okay. I'm glad we're talking about this because it gives me some good idea about what I ought to consider to be important. And I have turned off as many of the artificial intelligence features as I can on my email because I find that they get in the way.
Right.
And
Because it thinks it's smarter than you.
yeah,
And you're like me, you've been doing things for 20 years. I know how I work. Apple does not know how I work.
right. Yeah.
So, another thing is the 17, I believe, will probably have an M series chip in it. At least the Pro will.
Hmm.
Um, and when that comes out, we worry about it at that point. It might be worth upgrading then, but we won't know until they release it in
Right.
October and November.
Sure. Sure. Well, I'm not in a real hurry, except that I figured, hey, if I'm prepared and I've talked to people about this, then I might be a little bit ahead of the game. So
Yeah.
thanks, guys. Appreciate your inputs.
I'm curious as to how do you interpret the hindrance of Apple and intelligence to email? I haven't had that experience, so I'm trying to figure that one out.
Well, if you have categories set up, it'll put things into categories and remind you. Like I got an email or a notice the other day that I've got to turn off Apple Intelligence on my iPad because I'm testing the beta that I have not replied yet to a spam. Well, the reason I didn't reply yet to the spam was it's spam. I don't want to reply to everything.
How
So
is it
if
categorized? How is it categorized?
I don't have categories on. It was just a reminder that you did not reply to an email.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. First thing I got, the new version of mail is I turned categories off. I said, "Hey, I've I've gone for decades, just being I know
right.
what's there, and I don't need any machines guesses about what's relevant and what's not."
Yeah, I turn categories off and I turn the icons off.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like me. I suspect that stop and think about it. Apple is going to target Apple Intelligence toward the bulk of their clientele, which is the people in the middle of the bell-shaped curve, and the people who are in this group generally are at the more experienced end of the bell-shaped curve, or that they have years and years of experience, and they're a little bit ossified with what they know and what they do. They've got the mouse clicks and where to move the mouse built into their spinal cords by now. So it's not clear to me what what good Apple Intelligence is going to do for the TMUG member, although it certainly could be.
Well, one of the things I've noticed by watching the keynotes is the engineers that are discussing the products are getting younger and younger.
Yes.
Back 25 years ago, when they still had like Macworld, and you could talk, you go to the sessions and you talk to the engineers. The average engineer was in their late 40s,
Yep.
mid to late 40s. Now their average engineer is 25 to 30. So, and they're the ones that are setting it up. It's like, I doubt very much that 99% of the people in TMUG care about gaming on an iPhone,
Right.
but that's where they're growing. There used to be a saying back where the Mac would get upgraded for productivity and Windows would be upgraded for games.
Uh-huh.
Now it's the iOS devices are being updated for games. So they're worried about graphics and everything else to make games run smoother.
Right. Right. We're just a bunch of old fossils. What can I say?
Not me.
I may be getting older, but I refuse to grow up.
Hey,
Jerry
Kevin, I have a
Gifford, you
question.
had your hand up earlier. Do you have a question, or has that been taken care of?
I made my comment.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Mark Yarnish.
I got a question. My wife's trying to send out a group text on her iPhone. It's a 16 Pro. And it's our old coworkers from University Medical Center. So she sends out the text and she gets about 14 or 15 people on the text. She gets to certain people and it puts their names in and the text turns red and she can't send it out. There's two people that key this whole thing in that she's not able to send out the text. One has an iPhone, one doesn't. Is there something she's called Apple and they really didn't give her any satisfaction?
If it's a person, most likely for both of these people,
Mhm.
it may be how she has them listed in her phone book or in her contacts. The person with an iPhone, you want to make sure that the phone number is listed as an iPhone. And the person that is not an iPhone,
Mhm.
if they have a home phone number, make sure the home phone number is listed as home and the other phone number is listed as mobile.
Okay.
Because if it's trying to send a text to a number that can't receive text, you're going to get that issue.
Okay.
Also, she has to remember that a client called me last week. When you send out group text, her name doesn't appear on top. It never will. It'll appear on the top of the other people. So I had a client say, I'm sending it to 5 people. I see those 5 people, but I don't see my name. How do I know that they know it's from me? It's just the way the phones are.
Mhm.
You never see your name in the to section.
Okay. I'll have her start with the address book and look at that. Thanks.
Anybody else got any questions?
You know, Kevin, as far as the gaming thing goes, my grandkids play games on the iPhone. I think it's like kids, little kids, when they first get them, and they have games and stuff that they play, and some of it's gamified stuff for school, maybe. But I don't think the serious gaming market is certainly not on an iPhone.
No, but it's a big part of the keynotes when they introduce the iOS updates, or the new phones, I should
Yeah.
say.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I'm using the writing tools a lot on almost all of my emails. I love the proofread feature because my typing isn't what it used to be, and I have been leaving words out, and then sometimes it puts in the wrong word, like Siri guesses and makes a bad guess, and the proofread cleans all of that up really easily.
Hmm.
So I use it a lot, and summarize for web pages and long emails is a godsend because I have friends that like to send these long articles from Ars Technica that there's no way I have time or patience to read. So, a quick summary on that, at least I can communicate about it. So I find
yeah.
those very handy.
One of the new features that I like is that get rid of distractions. So
Yeah.
if you ever go to, like, say you wanted to read an article at the Washington Post and you don't subscribe to the Washington Post, and a big pop-up comes up and says, "Hey, you need to subscribe to us." You invoke to get rid of distractions. It gets rid of those pop-ups and lets you read the whole article.
Oh, really? Oh, I've been using the reader to do that. I didn't try to remove it's a distracting item. That's funny. I'll have to
Yeah.
try it.
That's interesting.
That's a good one.
There's
Any,
all sorts of countermeasures that you can take to get around their ads. I like that.
I have a question. Um, I don't subscribe to the gaming part of Apple, and I wasn't until recently subscribing to Apple Music, but they're constantly bothering me, reminding me, or asking me if I would like to subscribe. Is there any way to get rid of that?
yes. So you recently bought a new device in the last couple of months?
Well, I've got an iPhone 15. I bought it though in September, I think. I just added Apple Music because I bought a new car and it I thought it might be a good add-on, but rather than go to Serial, whatever that thing is, um,
Serious?
yeah, Sirius. I didn't want to use that. I already used Pandora, so I've got two music services now, and I'm trying to figure out which one I want to drop. But that's irrelevant. The thing is that, as I say, before I subscribe to Apple Music, and um, even now with the gaming, I'm constantly getting reminders to, would you like to subscribe? Would you like to subscribe? I don't want to get the reminders.
So open up your settings, and underneath your Apple ID, it might tell you that you have certain um,
Offer.
offers available to you. So you open each offer and say no, and then it'll stop reminding you for about a week or two. And then those reminders will come back. You do the same thing. You go into the settings.
Okay, I'm in settings. This is on the iPhone.
So right underneath in the general one, right underneath your Apple ID on top, do you
Right.
have something that says your available offers and a number next to it?
No, I don't. I have subscriptions that I have. It says personal information,
No, this would be
silence.
before that, before you actually go into iCloud.
Okay. All right.
So yeah,
Uh,
I turned mine off the other day, so I don't see it now. But like right underneath my name, between your name and where it says airplane mode, there was a box that said I had so many offers available.
oh, I don't have that on here, so
Okay.
I don't know why that is, but I don't.
Then you should, if you don't have that on there, you shouldn't be getting, alerts for you to join something unless you go into the app.
Okay. All right.
I'm,
Well,
I'm looking on
So,
thanks.
my phone and I have the block with my name on the top and then a offer for family for it's trying to get me to sign up for uh, a non-existent family plan. And then right underneath that, Apple Arcade free for 3 months.
right.
And this it comes before airplane mode. So it gets wedged in right at the top. And if you just like I hit Apple Arcade free, and it says you can
You,
either do this or not.
not now. Yeah,
Uh,
you just click on not now and it'll disappear.
it did. You're prescient, Kevin. Okay.
So, and as far as Apple Music and all the others go, Lee, do you have unlimited cell data?
Yes.
Um, then choose your poison. For me, Sirius is better because I don't have unlimited data.
Okay. Well, I have unlimited data, but I don't drive that much. I only would use it in the car anyway. So, um, I just decided not to uh, continue the subscription. I had a free subscription that was offered with the purchase. I said no to it. So
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
Susan, you had your hand up. You had a question?
Yes, actually, I do. Um, I have an Apple TV, which I use with an LG, and I watch only PBS. And very frequently, seemingly at random, something I'm watching stops and begins again. But the closed captions have continued. So they are several minutes ahead of what I'm seeing and hearing.
Hmm. I haven't experienced that.
Yeah, I have talked to PBS and they claim it's the TV, but I'm sure it's not the TV. In fact, I think it might be Cox because I've had the same experience with streaming on my MacBook.
Uh,
Yeah, well, when you're streaming,
Well, frankly, everything is streaming these days.
yeah, but the sync issue, when you're streaming a video, there's usually markers in the video to sync the subtitles. So
On
I'm not sure
the,
why they would be off. Um, are
Sounds like a
you,
provider problem.
sounds like what, Chris?
It sounds to me like a provider problem. I've had instances where the audio and the video don't sync, and so I'll just switch to a different station and then immediately switch back, and it seems to fix it at least temporarily. It's not an ongoing problem, but when that happens, that's what I do.
Hmm.
Another thing, Susan, is, and I don't know how PBS works, but a lot of stations have closed caption one, closed caption two, closed caption three.
Yeah,
And
I've tried that.
what I found out for me, I think it was three that worked the best, at least with
Yeah,
Comcast.
I've tried changing the caption. That didn't work.
That's weird.
It's
Yeah.
really totally weird. When the streaming goes back to the beginning, there's like no break. All of a sudden, you think, I've seen this. Uh, it's really weird.
Yeah.
But the captions have continued. So they are like 3 minutes ahead.
Yeah, I if you have a good signal to your Apple TV, I can't imagine any reason for it to start over. That
Yeah. Well, as I said, it's on my computer occasionally as well, which makes me think it's the internet connection.
Does it happen on any other streaming services, Susan? Like Netflix or?
I don't use them. All I use is PBS Passport, and it happens live, and it happens with PBS Passport.
crazy question, Susan. What brand TV do you have?
LG.
Does your LG TV offer apps where you could download the PBS Passport app into the TV and not use the Apple TV box, and see if that fixes it?
I have a PBS app, but it didn't come from LG, I don't think.
I don't know if LG, like, I have a Samsung and I know you can get I believe you can get the Arizona PBS Passport app on there.
Mm.
You might want to see if the LG has that capability. Also,
Um,
Alan, did you have something to add to this? You were
Yeah, I'm also a Cox subscriber, and their network has been, for lack of a better term, goosey of late. I will have it freeze, and I'll have to either quit the program and restart it and try and rebuild the connection. It will then start back several minutes before it froze or just dropped.
I've
It
had
happens
that.
on our TV, which is a Samsung, and also on my Mac. So I think it has more to do with Cox than anything else.
Mm.
Plus, I think that the closed captions, I think those run over a separate channel, and that's probably why they're getting ahead when the first one or the image quit.
Mm.
You might want to just contact Cox and have them run a test to see if there's any noise in your line.
I could try that. It's not easy to deal with Cox.
It's not easy to deal with any cable company, trust me.
Yep.
In our old house, I had Xfinity free for 2 years because they could not fix their problem. So,
Okay, guys, thank you.
David,
Good luck.
your voice,
Yeah,
there
I
you
just
go.
unmuted now. Um, Similar type of a problem. I gave my daughter my old
Apple TV 4K, I guess. No, and I bought a new one, and I reset it and everything, and set it up on her system there, but it refuses to find her Wi-Fi. And I'm going, I've looked all over Apple Help and whatever, and I've done everything that they suggested trying to do, uh, but it's really weird. Now it'll connect to our Wi-Fi here at the house. She's on a separate plan, so she has her own Wi-Fi in our house here, and I can see her Wi-Fi, and access it from all my devices, but when I try to get her to access her Wi-Fi from the Apple TV, Apple TV just doesn't recognize it. So I'm going,
How, how does she have her own Wi-Fi? Does she have her own service provider, or is she tapped into
yes,
your network?
no, she is, well, let's see, how is that set up? She is set up as her own provider, but we're both on Cox, but she's on a separate account.
Okay, so she has a separate Cox modem and all
Yes,
that.
right. And that's the thing, it just doesn't, it says cannot find. But yet I sit right next to it with my iPhone. I said, well, my iPhone can see it, I could try to log into yours, and I go like, well,
Well,
I'm kind of running.
do you know what her network name is? What the
Yes,
SSID is? Does
yes.
it have any weird characters in it, maybe?
What do you mean by weird characters?
Like my network name is called Home Network
Uh-huh.
with a space between home and network. I've seen some people do home asterisk network.
Yeah, she has let me see, I have to look at well, it doesn't look any strange thing.
So,
It's words and a number. So
and how many characters?
not many. It's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight characters and two numbers. And there's no space to work. And again, I can see it. I just look at it here from my Mac, and it's there. But
Okay, and the Apple TV is close to her network.
yep, it's really weird. It just, and what it does, it shows up as a choice, but when you go click on it to connect to it, it says cannot connect to this network. And I'm going, well, what setting could she have set wrong? And I've exhausted everything I could think of in settings.
Does she have separate network names for 2.4 and 5 gigahertz?
That's one of the things I was thinking is that, well,
Yes.
maybe what she's trying to do with it is look at it at 2.4 or 2.5, but when I look at what Cox modem is, it's either one.
Okay, so they're
So,
both the same.
yeah,
Yeah. How old is the modem?
it's brand new.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah, it's
sometimes they recommend that you change or
yeah, well,
upgrade, get a new one or whatever and turn it in
yeah,
and exchange it.
I,
yeah, they
Sometimes
did that to her when
I,
she moved from her apartment back here, and she thought, well, I'll just bring all my equipment over. They said, no, 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 we're going to issue all new equipment. So they did that, and everything else works fine on it. I mean, her phone, her computer's got all that stuff hooked up, but I gave her the Apple TV and said, well, here, you put this on your own TV up there, and then going like, wow, so she's running off our guest network right now, but and that works fine, but I'm going, I don't see what the difference is. And every one of the devices I got, iPads, Macs, my phone, every one
I've
of them can connect to her modem.
is
I've run
she
into something like this, and it turned out to be a 2.4 versus 5 gig conflict. And I ironed it down out, or by basically saying only only devices that really need 2.4 because they're old get to go on 2.4, and everybody else goes on 5 gig, and I don't have any trouble
Well,
for what
I
that's
can't
worth.
see I can't see any control on the Apple TV that can tell me to just select 2.4.
It doesn't. That's something that you'd have to do in a modem.
Is it a modem or a router that you're using?
It's a combination modem
A
router.
gateway, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it possible there's something,
Yeah.
some setting on the router that's excluding
I can't find anything on their setting.
Okay, what have you ever done a factory reset on the Apple TV?
Yep, I did more than one.
I'm not talking about the reset in the software.
No.
There's a micro USB port on the back of the TV of the Apple TV where you plug that into a computer and then you use your Mac to do a software update or a factory restore. And I bet you didn't know that.
Not that one, but what I did read on the Apple groups was, how to do a full reset. But
Yeah. Well, what a reset does is if you're having a software issue and you just do a reset.
no, I did the one where I'm, selling or transferring it to somebody else.
Right.
So I did the one that said, wipe it. And
Yeah,
it comes
I'm
back up
thinking
like,
you might have a software something corrupt in it. Because it should see it and it should be able to connect.
yeah, that's my thought. But okay, now tell me about just connecting
Underneath
things.
the if you look at the back of your Apple TV, underneath your HDMI port, there's a little, I think it's either USB-C or micro USB. And you connect that with a cable to your Mac. And it'll show up in the sidebar just like an app, like an iPad would.
Uh-huh.
And it comes up and you have an option of doing a full restore where it downloads the fresh version of the OS and installs it on the Apple TV.
Okay. But that would be nothing different than I've had to reload and upgrade the Apple TV to the current latest edition that's out there, and it still doesn't fix it.
Yeah, well, it's unless there's something stuck in there, some file that's stuck or some setting that's stuck somewhere. That's the only thing I could think of.
Okay, well,
I
I'll
mean,
look at that and see if maybe that's right now. It's no big deal. It's just one of those things that I spent days and days trying looking up and say, well, maybe I'll try this. Maybe somebody else has run into it. And I've seen several people complain about, it wouldn't do it. I go, oh, okay, what's the solution? But they're really old Apple TVs. I mean, these are things back, in 2019, 2018. I'm going, well, this is a little newer Apple TV than that. And
yeah.
but I looked at what their solutions were, and I said, "Well, what the heck? Maybe it'll work, But nothing has fixed it yet. But I
And
hadn't
and
heard
it
about
and it can
plugging in.
and it connects to your network with no problem.
No problem.
I may have missed it, but what is the proximity of the Apple TV to the router, to her router?
A hallway in a bedroom.
So the signal shouldn't be an issue, I
Oh,
would
it's got plenty of signal. Yeah, good strong signal.
Okay.
And it's interesting because we had a little bit of problem with our older Mac getting it connected up. And it took a few tries, but then all of a sudden it said, "Oh, okay, I see it now." But this Apple TV is just like, nope, I can't. I see it, but I can't connect to it. It recognizes it's there, but when you go to try to connect to it, I don't get. Normally, what happens is that any of my other devices, I see it and it'll come up and say enter your password. It doesn't get to the enter your password. It just says cannot connect to this system or Wi-Fi. It
I
sees it,
wonder
and I
I
almost
wonder
thought,
if it's a
well,
setting in the gateway.
I couldn't find anything that I could do to it. I even unplugged it, plugged it back in, I think we even did a reset through Cox and here, reset the router. You can
Hmm.
do it through that. And no, I'm not suspecting the router as much as I'm suspecting there's something. At first, I thought, well, maybe she has a limit of how many devices can connect to her Wi-Fi. But the
I
fact that I
doubt
can
she
come
hit
down here
that.
and but I can come down here and I can connect her Wi-Fi and all of my devices with no problem at all. It's just this Apple TV that I gave her. It's an interesting thing. I finally said, I'll worry about it later until we get to this session here. And I mean, it's been on there for over a month now, and it's just one of those things that you get a little frustrated when you've got to be an easy solution. There's got to be something simple I've missed on this thing, but I haven't
Except
found it yet.
sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's not. I understand.
Sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, it's all it is. It's a feature.
Uh,
Okay, well,
I,
the expert said
I have a question about Apple TV. I recently purchased a iPhone 16 Pro, and they automatically put me on a month of free Apple TV. And when I tried to unsubscribe, uh, I had a hell of a time. They put me through a whole bunch of loops. I'm just wondering if has anybody else had this problem?
how did you try to unsubscribe?
Well,
Um,
I followed their directions, I thought, but they kept running. I can't tell you exactly what they made me do, but I finally had to go to my iPhone and not my computer and
right.
unsubscribed off my iPhone.
Yeah, usually the easiest way to do that is you go to iPhone to iCloud, click on subscriptions, and then just click on the button that says cancel subscription.
Well, it wasn't that simple off my computer. They put me through a whole bunch of they were fighting me all the way. They didn't want me to unsubscribe. I'm
Hmm.
just wondering if anybody else had that problem. Guess not. Okay.
Things are different than they used to be.
Life gets more complicated as we get older.
That's for sure.
You run into more crooks.
Even if life doesn't get more complicated as we get older, it seems that way. All this talk about Apple TV. If you have Apple TV, Gretchen and I suggest that you watch Murder Bot. It is it's not, it's, I don't think the name Murder Bot is the right name for it. I think it's about 6 parts sci-fi and 4 parts comedy. And I don't know that I need to go any further than that. But if you have Apple TV, put it on your list, Murder Bot.
And
Yeah.
another good series on Apple TV is Masters of the Air, about the World War II bombing campaign with the B-17s.
Yes,
I
I agree. That's a great movie. And so is um, Greyhound.
Right.
well,
Tom Hanks.
personally, with Apple TV, I don't think that they have done a bad series. I mean, Morning Show was phenomenal. C was unbelievable. If anybody hasn't seen that, The Studio is really good. Um, plus Ted Lasso was a nationwide phenomenon. And that's even though it was canceled, it's coming back for another season.
Yeah.
Severance was very good.
Yeah,
Speaking of Ted Lasso, there's a new series called Stick
which is supposed to be
or
really good.
Sticks. And it is done by a lot of the same people as Ted Lasso. And it's kind of related in as much as it is a kind of a good news comedy. And that we're about 3 episodes into that, and that's good.
Is that on Apple TV as well?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
I don't know if it's Stick or Stick. I think it's Sticks.
Yeah.
It's
That's
about
the one
it's
with
about a
Owen Wilson.
golfer. It revolves around a golfer, but it's really not about golf. Just like Ted Lasso was about, it revolved around soccer or European football, but it really wasn't a show about soccer. Well, by the old clock on the wall, it's time for us to have our pre-main meeting break. If you wish, you can stay here and talk amongst yourselves, but I'm going to refill my beverage and I'll be back by 7 o'clock.